Okay, reference angles are basically just angles that are between 0 and 90 degrees. And what you're basically wanting is you want the angle to come off the x-axis. So if you have a very, very large angle, it allows you to find all the trig values that apply to that angle. And what's going to happen is any angle that you draw is going to have the same trig ratios depending on which quadrant that the angle is going to be in. The signs will change. So for instance, if you're in quadrant 1, sine and cosine will be positive. If you're in quadrant 2, sine will be positive, but cosine will be negative. If you're in quadrant 3, sine and cosine are both negative. And in quadrant 4, cosine's positive, but sine is negative. And so what happens is, you're going to, depending on what quadrant you're in, depends on what the rule is. If you're in quadrant 1, your reference angle, which is marked with usually a theta and then the prime, and just kind of depends on what angle you're working with, but if you have quadrant 1, to get your angle, theta is equal to your reference angle. It's the same angle. So if this is a 39-degree angle, your reference angle will also be 39 degrees. You want it to come off the x-axis and be acute. So your reference angle is going to have to go this way. If your angle is in quadrant 2, then what you're going to end up doing is you need to find out how much further do you have to go to get to 180 degrees. So your formula for quadrant 2 is going to be 180 degrees minus the angle, and that'll get you your reference angle. So if this right here was a 120 degree angle, your reference angle would be 60 degrees, because 180 minus 120 is 60. If you're in quadrant 3, notice I have the angle already drawn. Basically what you're going to do is you've already gone past 180 degrees, but you want to know how much further past 180 degrees that you went. Notice I'm still coming off the x-axis. Your reference angle never, ever, ever comes off the y-axis. So to get my reference angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the original angle and subtract 180 degrees from it, and that will give you your reference angle. If you have an angle that's in quadrant 4, basically it's kind of like what you did in quadrant 2. You want to find out how much further you have to go to get, in this case, the 360. Notice I'm still coming off the x-axis. So what's going to happen is I'm going to do 360 degrees minus the angle, and that'll give you your reference angle. If your angle is negative, or if it's not between 0 and 360, then what you can do is you need to find a coterminal angle so that way you fit within that range. Because even if this right here, let's say, was a 300 degree angle, I can rotate around multiple times and still start and stop at the same point. So your trig ratio is also going to be the same.